Welcome to Anatomical Gangster. I'm your host, Sue Hitzman. This is a podcast where we dig deep into the untamed world of movement, fascia, and I always like talking to the mavericks who redefine this field. I'm thrilled to have with us a true pioneer and powerhouse in the fascial community, Joanne Avison. Her work has profoundly influenced the global understanding of fascia and its role in human health. She's going to share her incredible insights on her journey, her career, and also her insights on the International Fascia Research Congress, which is coming up August 10th to the 14th. I will be there in New Orleans doing a melt method pre-con. I'm also doing two talks in the body of the conference, one with the amazing Carol Davis, who has been on Anatomical Gangster, about fascial unwinding. And I'm also doing one about our new fascia hydrator with the founder and creator of this tool, Christopher Gordon. It is going to be a jam-packed event. There are brilliant educators. Joanne is also going to be there. And I hope you'll join us and register to be a part of this event at frscongress.org. But for now, get ready for a fascinating exploration of the unseen networks within us all. And as always, make sure that you subscribe, share this with your friends, comment, because it always lets me know somebody is out there. And if you love what you're hearing here, share this with a great friend and build the community. I hope you enjoy this lovely conversation with my dear friend, Joanne Avison. Well, Joanne, thank you so much for coming on Anatomical Gangster and hanging out and geeking out a little bit about all things fascia and movement. I always appreciate you, and it's just lovely to see you again. It's been a minute.
Great to see you, Sue.
Lovely.
I think the last time I saw you, we presented together in LA. Do you remember? I
Yes,
was
of
presenting
course.
and I said to you, come in, get mic'd up, come and say hi. And we'd never worked together before on stage and we performed. Do you remember? And everybody turned around and said, how long did you guys rehearse that? And we were just
Yeah,
like, we didn't.
magic. But that's it. I think that when you meet kind of your soul connectors, the people who are of like-minded energies, when we come together, it is like firecrackers. It just flows. Everything is moving. And, I think that's one of the reasons I thought this would be such a great conversation with you, just even as the big picture, because your whole story is so beautiful. And again, we only have a little bit of time here on a podcast, but I want you to take us back to the beginning. How did you first become interested in fascia therapy, and what led you to make it kind of the cornerstone of your work?
Well, I have a feeling that a lot of things that we do in this world, and one of the reasons you and I get on well, is everything we do is spirit led. And I think spirit had the idea before me because truth bottom line is I met and married a Belgian chocolatier, and I didn't know that chocolate is a liquid crystal matrix, and I had no idea that my future was going to be involved in understanding a liquid crystal matrix. And it was one day, right in the sort of early days of my time working with, I was with Leonid Blyum, and we were having a kind of an argument about the non-linear nature of the human form. And I was having an argument with an osteopath who was telling me about bending moment at the human knee. And I was like, yeah, but what you're saying just doesn't make sense. It makes sense of mechanics, but it doesn't make sense of humans moving. And this osteopath was so cross. And she turned around and she said, just tell her she's wrong. And Leonid said, she's actually right, but she doesn't know why she's right. And I'll tell you why she's right. And I'm looking at him, listening to him tell her why I understand something that I don't get, if that makes any sense at all.
It's so great. And Leo
And
has the
Leonid just
ability
went,
to do that.
I just said, Leonid, what are you talking about? How do I know this? And he looked at me and he said, because you've been up to your elbows in chocolate for 20 odd years. And I went, and I had no idea. Leonid's whole thing, he's got this thing about chocolate. And I just said, oh, and he joined two dots for me, 1,000 dots for me. You know, when a light bulb goes on and you just drop into a different phase. It was a phase change. And then later I met Jaap van der Waal when he presented at the 2009 Amsterdam Fascia Research Congress. And I had no idea, but he is absolutely loony nuts about chocolate. And he got on his knees at the Congress and looked at me and he went, Juliette Binoche? And I went, what are you talking about? But since then, anatomy, chocolate, fluid crystal matrix, what got me into it was a love of yoga. And in the 90s, I met Tom Myers, and that was kind of that. He walked into a room in Brighton in the south of England, and he went, "There ain't no muscle connected to no bone nowhere in nobody." with his jacket collar up and his shades looking like a film star. And I was like, what? Hang on a minute. You've just thrown everything I've learned about classical anatomy out the window. What are you talking about? How dare you? Who are you? And the rest is history. I became one of his teachers and worked with Robert Schleip, and then got asked to write Yoga, Fascia, Anatomy and Movement, and then Movement and Manual Therapy and Chocolate all came together when I wrote Myofascial Magic in Action, the latest one.
How amazing. It
It's
is
amazing.
really is incredible. I always think of fascia as this energetic fabric that not only weaves our whole body together, but I think the frequency in fascia is what connects us all. And somehow or other, we all do come together. And the true pioneers in the fascial world, when I hear them speak, it's as if they're channeling something from all of these giants in the industry that have really, I think, solidified, clarified fascia in a different way. So let's actually start there. The word fascia, I think I think it's overused maybe now. I don't know what to say about it. Fascia has become this like all powerful being. It's like the magic guy behind the curtain in The Wizard of Oz. There's some puppeteer that's in the body. So, how do you see fascia? Do you see it as a tissue, an organ, a system? What's its role? Give me your definition of fascia.
For me, fascia is the interface of spirit animating the pattern of our matter. Meaning, pattern comes from pater, matter comes from mater. So the pattern of our matter is the father mother of us that we're born into. So we come from father mother. And in my spiritual studies, and that's been one of the keystones for me, is that fascia is this interface through which our soul, our spirit, animates our form in life. And we work with its pattern, and we work with it as a changing, adaptable process. And that's John Shalke's definition of fascia, is that it's a process. And I love that word process because a lot of people think fascia is an event. So there's a lot of argument about the definitions of fascia, technical, and how they relate to classical historical definitions. But that's as if an event, a one-off thing that you've got to deal with the fascia. So if somebody has a surgery, for example, they may or may not deal with the fascia. Or if somebody comes to you with a requirement, you will teach them about the fascia. But it's not
Mm,
it's an hour. it's
beautiful.
it's an interface of beingness. So the point I'm making is that what actually makes every single one of us the same is that we're all unique, and we express this liquid crystal matrix the way we do. Now the spiritual key behind this is this: in Aramaic, in the original language, what we now use as the Lord's Prayer was, the first word of it is abum in Aramaic, and that means father mother god. Now, this is not a religious statement, Sue. This is a spiritual quest. Every single one of us is a child of the divine. Every single one of us animates life force uniquely as us. And I believe our fascia is the interface of that animation, the pattern of our matter, the father, the mother, and we are the sacred child of our parents. Whether we like them or not, it's another whole thing. That's personality. That's a different animal. What we're talking about is this interface of our spirit, because I think what happens, and I'm now going to turn this at you, your face shines when you collaborate. I'll never forget when you and me and Jill Miller were all together in LA, because you made that happen out of nowhere. And my father was on the point of passing. He passed about 48 hours afterwards.
I
And
remember.
I was heartbroken. And we just presented together because the show must go on. And I will never forget Jill Miller putting her arms around me and giving me the biggest hug. And I was like, oh, Jill Miller, and Sue Hitzman. And we were all together in this place. And there was just love and
Yeah,
appreciation and collaboration. And the pattern of the matter of the fascia of us, the liquid crystal matrix resonating between these three women, whoever the hell we are, I mean, who cares in one way, we came together, and there was this honoring, there was this passion to share this work and make a difference to others in the world. And that's not a physical thing. That's not a mechanical thing. That's an emotional, bioemotional, mental, physical, spiritual, everything thing.
Yeah,
So when I say this is the interface of the pattern of the matter of us, we're in a collaborative pattern. We're seeking to make a difference in the world. You used this word before we came online. You said these pioneers. And we're all pioneering. We've all got different archetypal ways of pioneering. And we're sure we've all got to make a living and make what we do work. But we have an integrity to that that brings together this interface. And I think that interface resonates, as you said, it's at a frequency that we share. And
mm,
we're just looking to have that recognized in the world because it makes such a difference to everyone we work with, right?
I love
Just
that.
name
Yes,
it.
I agree. And I've been so bold as to say I think that fascia is the chi of our body because when I look at the Tao or any of the writing that Jin Yi and
Mm-hmm.
Jing, the life essence and fluids and the frequencies, I'm like, that kind of sounds like the crystalline matrix of fascia, And so I think that fascia has been greatly overlooked, but I think it's with people like you and Jill and Robert Schleip and
Mm.
again all of these people that are going to be part of this upcoming fascia congress, but also the Fascia Research Society, the people who I think really said, hey, there's something here that we need to look at. And Tom Findlay saying, we just all have to come together and share our work. And I even remember Tom Myers being on that call and he actually laughed out loud and was like, I just want to make sure I'm hearing you. You want researchers to share their unpublished research in a conference. And he's like, yeah, and bring clinicians together with researchers and collaborate and get people to build awareness and figure out a way to get more funding for research. And here we are at the seventh International Fascia Research Congress is coming up in New Orleans. We have had so many other events that I think big educators have come to share their knowledge and try to build this. So you have been deeply involved in the fascia community in the Fascia Research Society. I want you to tell me what are maybe some of the standout findings or moments from the previous fascia congresses. Has anything really excited you or surprised you in the past decade of bringing the awareness of fascia to the world?
Gosh, yes. Several things. And I'm going to shout out here to John Sharkey, who I have to say has devoted
Amazing.
his entire life to understanding fascia at a level that, let's be honest, 99% of us don't get to because he's a clinical anatomist. And he actually declined a professorship so that he could be there for his kids to grow up, which I think is an extremely generous thing. But not because he hadn't done the work or wouldn't do the work, but he didn't want to be locked away in a windowless room researching forever. He wanted to be out there in the field with the bodies. And he actually did the first, some 15, 20 years ago, the first dissection of the superficial fascia only, but including the digits, which no one's done, with Professor Hojin Sui in China. So the work of the fascia plastination program that's now with Gunther von Hagens, which he did with Robert Schleip, was actually originally John Sharkey's work from 10 years prior. And he has just in the background of the background of the background pioneered, pioneered, and pioneered. And every country has an International Association of Clinical Anatomists. And every 5 years they meet for what's called the IFAA, which is the International Fascia, the Association of Anatomists. So it's like an Olympics of anatomists. And in 2019 in London, it was held in London. John was asked to apply. You're not allowed to, it's not a show. It's not like, it's not like the IFRC where we get to apply. Everybody has to apply for this. You are requested to apply. And he shared it with Professor Carla Stecco and Vladimir Chermensky and a couple of others. And 7 of them did a presentation about fascia. And that year, the Association of Clinical Anatomists put forward a journal entirely around fascia.
Mm.
And it's not going to surprise you. This is not going to surprise the people you teach or the people that your teachers teach, but it is going to surprise the medical people. And that was, I remember John telling me that somebody stood up and said, "Are you telling me that if I, as a surgeon, perform abdominal surgery, that I might affect the shoulder of my client, of my patient? 6 weeks later, they might come back complaining of shoulder pain, and you're telling me it could be related to that appendix scar, for example." And
Yeah.
I'm telling the story of this. This is, third hand. And John said, as I understand it, John's response was, "You will never know." That's the tragedy.
Mm.
And the doctor said, the surgeon said, "What do you mean I'll never know?" And he said, "Because that person will likely go to the hospital and see a physio about shoulder pain that will not necessarily be related to their recent surgery."
That's right. They'll never even tell that doctor. They
Won't
won't even
docs.
make the correlation. Exactly. I mean, it's the same thing as I had a friend of mine call me yesterday saying, "Hey, I've got this I suddenly have drop foot." I'm like, that's probably an L4-5 compression. It's in your back. He goes, "No, I don't have any back pain." I'm like, I appreciate that, but
No.
that's that nerve root. And I said, "Is there anything else that's going on that might have exacerbated this?" Because I've known him for about 25, 30 years. And I remember treating him about 20 years ago for his back and telling him about his L4-5 compression that he had. So somewhat compressive. But I said, "Is there anything else that maybe is going on?" He's like, "No, not really." And on goes the conversation. I kind of gave him some strategies. And he goes, "Oh, well, next week I'm going in for an abdominal hernia repair." And I'm like,
Hello.
"That's a bag, that's like a cylinder from the front to the back." So probably some of that weakness of the whole system has further allowed the spine to collapse. And he was like, "Wait, the front of my body has to do with the back of my body?" And it's like you kind of talk to people like that, and they're like, "I just don't
It's
understand what."
round, honey. So
Yeah.
here's the thing, Sue. We're not setting ourselves up to be doctors or better than surgeons.
No.
And
So
thank
grateful
God.
that we have people like that to fix us
Hello.
when we're broken.
What's shocking is the discrepancy between the consideration of the role of the fascia and the understanding of the role of the fascia for people that have only done that. And what we're
Encourage it.
longing for is to bring these fields together. Now, some have, and there is good news in the world, and not through the Fascia Research Congress or anything like that, but I have somebody very close to me who had to have a hysterectomy. And this particular surgeon, a female, Dr. Abdul in the UK, she does two, what do you call them? She pierces the abdomen in four places, two laparoscopes and two cauterizers,
Yeah.
and spends 4 to 6 hours in a hysterectomy, very gently and subtly removing the fascial matrix from the broad ligament, as well as around the fallopian tubes, the
Wow.
ovaries, and the uterus.
Wow.
And then right at the end, intravaginally, removes the womb and seals the top of the vagina. And that patient is up and walking within a matter of hours, fully recovered with no need for painkillers or overnight stays in hospital.
Wow.
Now, she is measured against what's called the cut and chuck method, where there's 3 to 6 days of recovery plus
Yeah, they
all the
eviscerate you.
aftermath. And it's all done really, really quickly with no respect for the fascia. Now,
Mhm.
she's discovered this, and I only know about it through the person that I was caring for. She's discovered this through her work. And the difficulty is having to argue that the average surgeon takes 8 clients a day, and she takes never more than two. But she requires no aftercare and very little drug and pain control because there isn't any,
Yeah,
because
but
she's
four
ready
to
to run.
six hours, 4 to 6 hours for a hysterectomy is 4 times the amount of time that doctors
That's
take for
given,
hysterectomy. And that's probably the problem is that
of course.
yeah, because the hours that it takes, that's like most doctors will not take that time, nor do they want somebody under anesthesia for that long. But yeah, I mean, I guess there's like a
The
balance between the
recovery
two.
rate, Sue, that it
I'm
comes
very
out over
grateful.
the year when you think of the costs of keeping someone in hospital for 4 days or three
Yeah.
days or overnight, and the drug control. And this is where your experience filters through. And some people go, oh, wow, that's amazing. But your heart sinks because you kind of know that this doctor is working very, very hard to gain the statistics. And there are others. There are those doing C-sections in very special ways so that people are up and running and not having the post scar tissue issues that the fascia causes. We know about them. We've been in the dissection lab. We've spent more
Yeah.
time working with that than
People
most
don't know
doctors.
to ask. People
Exactly.
people don't know to ask. And I mean, I even remember when just even in this last month, my mother had to get a second surgery from a botched surgery. And I said to the guy, well, are you going anterior, posterior? Like I started asking a lot of questions. He had to make a scar literally down the whole side of her leg because of the damage. And there was a screw floating aimlessly in my mother's leg that they had to fish out. But I asked him, do you try to push fascia or get it away, or or do you not care about it? He goes, I'm not thinking about fascia. We just need to get that thing out and fix it. Right. And so I hear that and I think, well, I'll just go ahead and I'll fix what your scar will cause to my mother, and we'll try to recover it on the other side. But I think that's the big thing, is that fascia, while it seems like it's more well known, I mean, I think fascia is put in front of everything. Everybody's a fascial expert, everybody's talking about fascia, but really I think that most people have no idea about fascia because they're taking microscopic understanding or microscopic science, and they're putting it into the macroscopic world of movement way too fast. And the words that they're using, actually, the correlation is broken. And so a lot of times I'm hearing people on social media yammering on about their education in fascia, and I just want to type to them, that's actually not true. But I just keep my mouth shut and just let it roll. But I think the problem with growing science is that there's going to be a lot of hype. There's going to be misinformation,
Oh, there is so much.
false information. And I think that we really are, again, with the Fascia Congress, this is the seventh. We have it every 3 years. This started in 2007. And I think we're still just scratching the surface as to what we're going to understand, because now with what is that, the alpha program, where they can now decode proteins, I think that we're going to find out so much more about fascia and really start to bring it out into the medical mainstream, because we are going to be able to look at it on a much more molecular level and understand its properties and how it keeps us active and functioning well. So I think this is all, yeah, I think that we're there.
It's it's huge, the breakthrough. And we've got people like Neil Thies, who I know you and I both
Of
adore.
course.
I remember the first time you met him with John that day, and you did those gorgeous Facebook things in the other Congress. And Neil, I've had the joy of working in the lab with Neil many times. He's a liver pathologist, and he's also a Zen Buddhist. So we share this very kind of the spiritual, we all do this spiritual
Yes,
awareness. The being in the body animates the form, and the form changes the animation, and the animation changes the form. And that is not a license to say what the hell you like and be right about the tissue.
that's right. Well,
And
there are
I
people who
remember,
actually they vilify it. They're vilifying fascia. We've got to blast it away. We're going to bruise it. We're going to scratch it. It's the problem of your life. The fascia is the problem. And I'm like,
no, it
no,
is
no,
not.
I don't. It's not the problem. It's the
No,
solution. The opposite.
absolutely not. And this is where I get really, really upset, and especially when it gets caught up in the cosmetic industry,
Yeah.
whereby it's all about how we look. And I mean, I might just say you look absolutely fabulous. So just if anyone's
Yeah.
listening to this as a podcast, you just look amazing as always. But
Thank you.
the point we're making here is that fascia has an underlying role to play in our health and well-being.
Yes.
It is not a connective tissue in the sense that it was never unconnected. It is literally the liquid crystal matrix, the sensory organ of the form.
Yeah,
And
I
it's
like I like
most
Yap.
prominent,
Yap van der Wal says it's the inner tissue. I love that word, inner.
the
Instead of
tissue of
connective,
innerness. Yeah,
it's
yeah,
the tissue
inner.
of innerness. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is that this is what I think people don't understand, is that in their baby form, subtle pre-versions of vascular tissues, tubes that for example, the blood moves in, are made of fascia, as are the nerve tissues, as are the myofascial tissues. I'm not teaching you this. We know that variations on the same theme
Mhm.
are all evident in the body. Even, and if you read Dean Juhan's work, even if you go to the bone, you're looking at a very similar structure and a very similar tissue with a crystalline element of hydroxyapatite in it. In cartilage, you're looking at it with a hyaline-ish, different variations, but also hyaline. In muscle, we've got the myomuscle protein. So anybody saying fascia doesn't exist, and we have those physios trending with they know fascia doesn't exist, my heart goes out to them, because honestly, I just want to invite them in the lab and say, just calm down. Never mind your social media. Just look at the difference that you can make to these
I
people's
can't even
lives.
believe that there's physiotherapists out there saying fascia doesn't exist. Have you
Yeah,
lost
no,
your
there are.
freaking mind? It's
No, no,
like
exactly. Hello. It's
most
like saying
abundant
skin,
material in the body that is what it shapes us through
which
development. Yeah, but it doesn't
seriously,
exist.
no,
It's
it
not
doesn't
Santa
exist.
Claus, people.
But hello. So my point in all of this is that every single one of us has an intellect, an instinct, and an intuition,
Mm.
and they move at different speeds. And our intellect is the bit that does all the quantitative work. How many strides per mile? How many strokes per length in the hall, in the pool? How many? What's my, my rate? I've got my ring that tells me how well I sleep, and I've now got my watch that tells me whether I'm breathing or not at the right rate. All these statistics, great. They're really, really useful, but they don't replace our awareness.
Mhm.
They don't replace the moments in between when we're breathing and being. And what I loved about Neil Thesis' work was his recognition that the structure and organization of the whole innerness, this apparent spaces, we know they're virtual spaces, there's no empty spaces in the body as such, but the apparent spaces between the things within the liver was his first work. And John Sharkey said to him, is this the pattern of every organ in the body? Is it the pattern of the bits in between that aren't the organs, the so-called extracellular matrix? And Neil said, yes, John, it's everywhere. It's ubiquitous. So we can't get our heads around that because that's so multidimensional. We could talk about it in the liver. We can talk about it in the cardiac tissue. We can talk about the heart brain coherence. We have these subjects because it's the inner cosmos. And it's so vast, we can't get our heads around it.
Yeah, I think it's also like, when you think about the universe and they say there's
Mm.
actually a fabric that's holding things
Yeah,
together, or this
exactly.
dark, I think fascia is kind of like the dark
It is.
matter.
It
It's
is.
the most abundant thing that we're really not sure about, but we know it's important. And because
It
it's
is the
so
fabric.
vast, we're just going to set it aside and look at the other stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And it's that, and John has used those words. John Shockey has said it's the dark matter of our inner cosmos. They're his words. And we were having a conversation the other day. We'd both been seeing something that Brian Cox had said about the galaxies, and that
Mhm.
the more we look into the galaxies and the more powerful the telescopes we have are to see the galaxies, what we see is that there's more, and that each galaxy has galaxies. And
Yeah.
it's just like it's mind bending. And of course,
Yeah.
it's happening at the other end of the scale with the microscope. And the more we discover, the more we see. And then it's like, oh my God. And you can't even keep up with the stories that we've already made up out of the information that we had 5 years ago. Because as you say, we're reaching this new level of understanding. And literally, the only thing I'm left with is this multi-dimensional multiverse that our skin is almost like just an interface,
Hmm.
but somehow we've got to come to terms with the wholeness, the allness, the completeness of it, but also the wisdom of it and the innate intelligence of it. And
Yes.
this is where I really get going, because we think AI is so important now that it's beyond us. But the actual fact is that your screen on your computer that you're looking at me now through, your screen on your mobile phone, your screen on your tablet, they are liquid crystal matrices.
Yeah.
They are haptic interfaces. Well, what in God's name do you think the cells communicate with each other as? And this is why we mustn't be too forceful. This is why we've got to be subtle and aware and gentle with this tissue, because it is our tissue of sensitivity. But it's got
Absolutely.
different sensitivities
Yeah.
depending on where it is in the body. And it's like, don't bash it. Don't just
Crush it, smash
crush
it.
it,
Yeah. 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 I
push
know it
it,
drives me
elbow it.
bananas.
Listen, I was trained in the whole industry that's sometimes known as rolfing and structural integration. And trust me, my darling, training with Tom Myers, you started loud. You knew where to put a very potent elbow
Well,
in someone's tissue. That's how
and
you learned.
sometimes, yeah, but that
And sometimes it's
is, yes,
necessary.
sometimes there is a time and place for heavy compression force. I really do believe that. I think sometimes the a slow but very directive focal point and waiting and letting the tissue adapt as you move is really important. But I think the one of the things that really resonated with me, and this is going back to when I first got myself into pain when I was 28 years old and I had plantar fasciitis. And I was like, what the hell is inflamed fascia? That I really saw fascia as being this adaptable morphological element of the body that had a vibration, a tone to.
Mhm.
And it was reacting on a almost a psychosomatic level to the
Yeah.
environment around me. And it wasn't until, my maybe a decade after where it really struck me that the pain that I had, if I really go back to what was happening at that point in my life, my father, a year after my foot started to hurt me, died. Almost a year to the day that my foot started to hurt me. And I think my energy frequency was being ripped up. And because the nervous system
Yeah.
didn't have its grounding, the fascia kind of froze. And my footing, I lost it. And so there is this adaptability of tissue that uh, I didn't really have a definition for, and I made a theory, a hypothesis. And I think, like a lot of us, science is finally catching up to the ideas that therapists have had for centuries, really. I mean, you think
Yeah.
of Ida Rolf, who we're honoring finally at the seventh International Fascia Research Congress. We're finally talking
Excuse
about
me,
Ida
it's
Rolf.
about time.
You know what I mean? I always feel like the females who really are the pioneers, kind of
Careful.
it's like, oh, but these other guys. But I think that we are at a paradigm shift because of technology, because of AI, because of atomic force microscopy and these curious educators and scientists that are really wanting to uncover it. But I really think that you're saying something also about the universe, that if we just close our eyes, the universe is a reflection. We are the reflection of it. And it's like 9 billion universes living on a planet that represent the universe. And I think that it is what connects us. And I think it gives me solace to think that life and death are not beginnings and endings. They're just the transformation of what was before and what is after. And I think fascia holds that frequency and that vibration that when I actually leave the form and the fascia and all of it behind, some essence that ignited the neuroelectrochemical frequencies in that's
Mhm.
me, is eternal. And it makes me more calm to sleep at night when I think, yeah, my mom's not going to be here for very much longer. And it shakes me sometimes to think, you just want to have one more good day or whatever that is. And I think that that's the blessing of discovering fascia 25 years ago and having pain, is that it changes you. It changed me, and I'm forever grateful for it. And I want to kind of on that note, because you are so spiritually inclined, so integrated in the spirit, you really just have this wisdom. So if you had to summarize, let's say the most significant lesson fascial therapy has taught you about spirituality, what would it be?
Wow, I've got goosebumps. So there's three things in my spiritual training that every single day, many times a day, we call in the light, the love, and the sound of spirit. So I work in Surat Shabda Yoga, which is yoga of the sound current, which is the frequency. You've used that word many, many times. And we both know fascia is a tension compression architecture. It's a geometry,
Sacred geometry.
sacred, because every being is sacred.
That's it.
You know, even the nasty people, they're sacred. They might have to come back a few times to sort themselves out, but that's another discussion. I think fascia, I'm not going to make myself popular here, and I've never dared say this out loud before, but I'm going to say it today because you've asked me. I think fascia is the tissue of love, light, and sound in the human form.
Yeah.
And I think that when we realize it emits light, that's scientific gold standard peer reviewed research, it emits light. And to the extent that it emits light, it is healthy. It is because it's formed under tension from the literally the moment we, and Jaap van der Waal again, the unicellular being that we begin as, that is a spark of light. The egg spins in the corona radiata, the radiant crown of light, to form us, to become us. And the sound, the frequency of that tensional tissue makes us more of an orchestra than a machine. There's nothing mechanical about this.
Yeah.
It's the strings of the orchestra. It's the diaphragms of the percussion. It's the wind tubes of the wind instruments. And I think the heart is the conductor and the brain is the composer. And when it all comes together, we walk in symphony and harmony with each other. And I think we're designed for loving. And what I think the fascia does is it's an integrated defense mechanism. And that when we're in pain, the fascia is basically going, wait, you're not listening to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we all have a basic self and a conscious self, and we might call it a high self, but they're sheaths of beingness. And I think they talk to each other. And when we tune in, we can actually hear. And I don't just mean hear the sound of our words to each other. You're just grinning at me. Anybody who can't
I know
see
this
Sue
so
Hitzman
well.
at this moment is missing something because she couldn't have a bigger grin on her face. There is a radiance, there is a light, and there is a lightness of being. And when we're out of pain, let's be clear about something here, Sue. We don't feel anything. It's not about bruising, it's not about technique, it's not about wailing away on this tissue. It is about incorporating the way we are, including the sensitive, quiet, calm need to recover, to sleep, to rest, to restore, all of the above, the beingness of being. So I think fascia is a tissue of love, light, and sound. And that when we are loving ourselves and forgiving ourselves for being human, because let's face it, we're all in Earth School to learn something. And I get up some mornings and I literally look at the sky and I go, really? Really?
Mm-hmm.
You want me to get this? What do you want me to get here?
Mm.
But when we can accept from a spiritual point of view, the first law of spirit is acceptance. When we can accept it the way that it is, I'm not saying it's acceptable, I'm not saying it's okay, but if we can just accept, we can expand to include what's going on and then we can adapt appropriately.
Yeah. And, I was just talking to John Barnes, who's the
Mm,
founder of
yeah,
myofascial therapy, and Carol Davis.
beautiful work.
And our, I know you got to love these people. We were talking about fascial unwinding and this word that now all of a sudden, like everything is fascial unwinding, and people can unwind themselves and whatever. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, first of all, we're talking about energy. We're not talking about like the tissue has been spun around and we're just going to unravel it in the body. It's not
Sounds like
even how it works.
unraveling, doesn't it? It sounds like you're unraveling a jumper and it's just going to fall on the floor. Or you're piercing a bag and the water's just going to spill out. It doesn't.
Yeah, it
But it's a
doesn't.
good word. But it's also a word. But this is like stretch, Sue.
That's
When we
it.
talk about stretching, you and I both know if you take tissue beyond physiological or anatomical range,
You
you
damage it.
cannot get it back. And fascia is spiraled in the body. So when we say unwinding, what we mean is reinstating the natural glide so the movement is easy, so that we feel nothing,
Yes,
that we
that's
don't
it. And
feel pain.
one of the things I said, it was that I had talked to a shaman and we were talking about how people are more and more talking about that trauma gets trapped in the fascia. And I said to him, I think fascia is the aspect of love in our body. It's where we hold love. And I don't think the fascia likes when we have fear, anger. And so that's why it gets stuck. But I said, how come how come we're not so full up with love that we just don't have any space for the trauma? And he said, well, that's because love flows and fear and anger are obstructions. They stunt
I
us.
don't think that's true.
And yeah, so tell me, what do you think?
What do I think? Well, I think that the fascia is a matrix, right? It's a web. Now, just think for a minute. Imagine you want to climb in life to where you want to go, and you've got 12, just play with me. You've got 12 vertical ropes hanging. And you've got to climb each one of those ropes. That's hard work. And you get down and then you've got to learn the next lesson and climb the next one. It's not how it works. What we do is we get more rope, more stuff, more knowledge, more undertakings, more experiences, and we tie them in knots to the other ones so that we make a lattice.
Yeah, we
Now,
weave it.
every knot in the net is a crystallized idea where the fascia has gone, ouch, this hurts, I don't like this, meaning it means a lot to me. It's emotionally difficult. Doesn't mean it's good, bad, or indifferent. We're not making it right or wrong. And I am not saying it's okay to abuse people. However, if we come in this lifetime and abuse is on the list of things we signed up for this sacred contract, and I've experienced that, most of us have, they become knots in our net. And I believe those knots can be turned into a climbing frame for us to expand our compassion. Because let's face it, Sue, the knots in your net gave you the resonance to create
Right.
melt, to make a difference for hundreds, if not thousands, if not tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of people. If you think of the people that you've taught, who've taught people, who've taught people, who've
Mm-hmm.
shown other people, that between us, those resonance fields have allowed us to navigate that net because of the knots in our net. And those knots are not necessarily for undoing and unwinding. They're for saying, you know what, I did really, really good. And
Yeah,
I
they're
feel
lessons. We can't even know love if we don't have those moments of shame and grief and anger and depression and loss and all these things. I mean, how would we know how deeply we love without grief? Like grief is love with no place to go. So we need it to, I think, also strengthen the lattice, right? It
exactly.
strengthens
It
it.
strengthens the lattice. Now, the question is, what are you going to do with the lattice? Are you going to
Yeah.
stand on the ground and look up at the lattice and go, oh, my knots in the net are much worse than your knots in the net. Oh, get me out of here. Or are you going to go, I wonder where I can climb with this? Are you willing to be present to the mystery that you don't know where that's going to take you? That's our hard part. We want to know everything. We've now got AI and we want to know everything. But we've still got to move. We've still got to breathe. We've still got to serve each other. We've still got to have relationships. AI can't do that for you.
Right.
Don't ever send me an email written by AI because I'm just going to sense it and bin it. It's the what it's the this is the magic that we talked about. And when we can honor that, I think we've got a liquid crystal matrix with crystalline, crystallized bits. If we can be present to them in ourselves, forgive ourselves, just forgive ourselves. I say
Forgive
just.
everybody.
I did a
And
podcast.
that doesn't mean let bygones be bygones. That means really clearing the link that hurts and looking at whatever that is as a lesson. You know, it's a learning. If you don't let yourself be a victim to the discretions of
That's
other
the key.
people. Yeah.
Are you going to be the victim or the victor because you chose that knot in the net to climb on? Are you going to sit underneath it whinging or are you going to climb on it and move forward? Not
That's it.
in revenge, no eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, but in the
What a waste of energy.
hello, let's just tread on that and say, okay, well, I'm going to be careful with that resonance field next time and move on. And that's what this is all about. It's about moving, right? The sign of life. And fascia is the fabric of our form and our motion. And this is why I call it bioemotional intelligence, partly because I don't think it's mechanical, and partly because I think we are spirit animated through form. And that animation needs freedom. And it's hard. I mean, my God, I'm going to tell you this right now. When I first came across you, I was like, oh my God, I wish I had her confidence. I'm going to say this just how it is, too. It's like, I wish I had that American, New York, straight out there, make it out in the world. Oh my God, I'm never going to be as clever, as smart, as beautiful, as capable as Sue Hitzman. I swear to God, I'm there. And
Wow.
then I thought, well, why would you want to be Sue? Why would you want to be
Yeah.
anybody?
Who would I be?
And then so we meet in LA that time, and I just remember your warmth and your kindness and the spirit of collaboration that you and me and Jill had, and you came into MSIA where where I was ordained and where I
Was
studied
an
spiritual
honor
science.
to be even asked. It
But
was
yeah,
such
but
an honor. I couldn't even believe when you asked me. I was like, because I think the same of you. It's like you know who an educator is. You know who's done the work. And when you see them and you listen to them, it's like, you know, I think it's just easy to see the true pioneers. I think the people who call themselves the gurus, the queens, the this, the that into the world. I just think when you self-proclaim yourself that it is as false as anything can be. I mean, other people call us those things, and I think that's adorable, and I very grateful, and the kind compliments. But I think that the root of it, of the why, you, me, and so many of the other people in our industry are really out to do what we do is for the love of humanity. I think it's
mm,
for the love of our own peace. It's for the love of love. And I just know that body workers, people who have a gift, and when you have a vehicle to share your gift and people listen, is probably the greatest blessing on the planet, because it allows the innate wisdom and purpose that you have in your life to shine. And I really think that it's within the community that it's helped all of us to amplify what we have within us, and it is the connected environment. I think that is actually what will keep the thread going. And I really can't wait to see what transforms in this next year. I have so many great ideas of collaborative events, and I'll share a little bit more about that with you, because you're like on my short list of people to do this
oh,
with.
I pray so, because
It's gonna be it's gonna be amazing, and I'm not even going to tell you who else it is, because everybody can just be on the edge of their seats waiting for 2026. But I want to, because we're running out of time here, I want to make sure I have a couple other questions. I want to know
okay.
what's next for Joanne. Like, are there any exciting projects or collaborations that you have on the horizons that you want everybody to know about?
Yeah, I've just finished my Fashion Magic in Action, the book of
I
one
can't
of the
wait.
programs I did. And the actually I was commissioned to write 5 books in a series, and the next one is in progress right now, is my fascial motion types. It's basically somatic archetypes, because I feel
Beautiful.
this is the tissue of our form, and we are archetypal. And I also spent 20 years studying with Carolyn Mace and studying archetypes. And what I began to discover in my own body work, and you'll resonate with this straight off the bat, is that patterns of change in people were more archetypal than they were sequential according to the book about anatomy.
Hmm.
Things happen according to the person that's doing them and the situation they're in and the state or stage they're at, much more than they do the progress of the dis-ease or the discomfort. So what I realized was that the protocols are all very interesting, but it's the profile that has the keys.
Hmm.
So by knowing where someone is, you can direct them to where they're going. And
Yes.
it's very, very simple. And I can't tell you how hard I've worked to simplify it so that we can all work out very simply, just by looking, which type someone is where they start, and understanding that, let's say, on a horizontal scale from fixed to flexible, if you start off fixed and you do more compression work, you're going on a short timeline. And if you start off very, very flexible and you do more flexibility, you're going to feel fatigue. So
Right.
we just have to find the way to season our own nutritious movement for our own well-being and become our own master chefs. And it's very much along the lines of what you teach in self-help, self-awareness, and just saying to people, I'm not telling you to do another modality. I'm not telling you which one is the best. I am telling you, know yourself, physician, know thyself, and know what kind of movements work best for your myofascial motion type. And
Beautiful.
I'm very, very excited about that, and I can't wait to share it, because it's non-denominational, it's not a faction, it's not an alternative modality, it is literally for everybody.
Right. It's just an education. And I mean, my gosh, like what a great thing that is, because it just seems to me people who have hypermobility, they love yoga, and people who are like stiff as a brick love to lift weights. I'm like, I mean,
Yeah, we just need to
where's the
sulfate it a
balance?
little bit
Yeah,
with there's
yeah,
different
yeah.
and then we add different morphological types to that, and we have a graph basically, and
Yeah, that's
it's just
beautiful.
simple and it's fun and it's accessible. And I'm in the process of I don't want to say dumb it down because I'm not dumbing it down. I'm simplifying it so that we all have access. I don't want it to be, it is based in science, but I don't want it to be scientific you don't have to spend 6 months studying
Yeah.
it to get it. You can just
Simple,
see
simple, and you know it. You understand it better. I think that's the thing I always ask everybody is, aren't you curious about what you look like inside? Like, aren't you curious about like how it all works? I mean, it just, and some people are like, not really. But I think to myself, the human body is a miracle. The fact that we look this way, and sometimes I don't even know what other people are seeing because, you're just sort of like, really? I have no idea. Like you're just kind of like living your life and whatever. But it really is a mystery and it's magical. And the human experience is a gift. I think we should all embrace that a little bit more. And I think you are just one of the wisest women I have ever met in this lifetime. So I really am so grateful for you. I have one last question for you, Joanne.
Oh,
And I ask everybody this on Anatomical Gangster. If you could tell somebody a life lesson or something that you realized an awakening, something that completely changed your mindset, it completely transformed your life. And if other people heard what you've learned, it might very well change the course of their life. What would it be?
love you. Love you. You're meant to be here. You are loved. You are the beloved.
Beautiful. What a great message. Yeah. Love thyself, know thyself, trust thyself. I tell a lot of people that. Where are you in your self practice? And that I mean everything: self talk, self love, self acceptance, you know, self
Just
whispering.
imagine that this beautiful mixture of fascia and fluid and form and personality and archetypes, because we've all got like at least 12 basic archetypes and another goodness knows how many more with access. And here's another key that I love. Every single one of us, the iron that we rely on in our bloodstreams, one of many things inside us, the iron that we require so that we're not anemic, comes from one source and one source only, and that's a dying star. So we are the incorporation of the cosmos. That's not hairy fairy shit. That's absolute scientific foundation. The tissue emits light. Absolutely true. The body has a frequency, same as a tree has a frequency, same as every living thing on this planet. And by the way, there's nothing mechanical about any of those living things. Every single one of them forms under a sacred geometric system, sacred geometry of form. Every living thing is based in sacred geometry. We're
Yeah.
sacred geometry walking around. We are the divine expression of form. We're the divine proportion of that form expressed. And I think we forget so easily that that's the foundation, that we could fill ourselves with that and express from it instead of trying to become it because it's over there. It's in here. It's already present.
Everything that you need is inside. Yeah. And definitely, I think that when I saw Dr. JC Gumberto strolling under the skin at the 2007 Fascia Congress,
Yeah.
I remember leaning to Gil and going, my God, it looks like sacred geometry. And he said,
Yeah,
it is.
it
I
is.
practically cried. It really is a glistening, vibrating, communicating network. And it really represents the cosmos. And I
And you
appreciate that.
don't crush it. You must be so respectful of it.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Just respect yourself, respect what's in there. Well,
And I
Joanne,
say that physically and emotionally. Don't
I
crush yourself. Don't put yourself down.
yeah,
The language.
yeah. I think that's what I say to people. I mean, would you rather be punched in the face or hugged when you're not feeling great? I pick the hug any day of the week, right? We need to
I'm
be
with you.
hugged and touch yourself. And I mean that in every which way. Well, honestly, Joanne, this has just been such a delightful conversation. I could chat with you forever. And I am just so looking forward for the next time when we actually get to meet one another in person. I'm sure we'll make that happen. And for those of you guys listening to this podcast, I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that you find Joanne and grab her new books as they upcome, and of course, your previous books as well. Stay curious, stay loving, stay gangster, and we'll see you next week. See you soon. Thanks again,
Thanks.
Joanne.
Lots of love.